Hey everyone, Joe Robinson here with Ferrum Network on YouTube. Today I'm joined by Nick Odio, our EVP of Partnerships, to talk about our recent $20,000 purchase of Polkadot's token. And before jumping into the strategy of why we bought that token, I was hoping Nick could give us some context on the Dotsama ecosystem. That's both the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystems that Ferrum is going to be building on. How you doing today, Nick?
Doing good, Joe. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you.
Pleasure as always.
Thanks for joining. He's calling in
Yeah,
from Argentina. Uh,
correct.
yes. So
Yeah,
what's the deal? What is Kusama? What's Polkadot? Why is Ferrum joining?
yeah, for sure. So this initiative is really exciting, but I think in order for us to really understand, why we went ahead and started accumulating dot, it's important to kind of understand the nuances of the dot Sama ecosystem. For many of us in Web3, you know, Polkadot is a fairly foreign ecosystem just because so many people are used to operating within like EVM compatible frameworks, MetaMask, and networks that are compatible with that. And there's all these other ecosystems out there that are doing great things, and Polkadot is one of them. Polkadot and Kusama. So, like you mentioned, the Dotsama ecosystem. So, um, I think before we can like effectively understand the strategy behind the initiative, it's important to understand some of those nuances. So, Gavin Wood, who's the founder of Polkadot, he took a pretty innovative approach. Something that he called his bet against blockchain maximalism. Um, and when he kind of started this bet against blockchain maximalism, um, he created this blockchain of blockchains, right? So it's what's called a layer zero. So it's a framework using Substrate, which underlying language is Rust. Using the Substrate framework, you're able to build these layer ones on top of Polkadot. So you're able to build use case specific blockchains within the Polkadot framework and Kusama. So Kusama is kind of a sister chain which acts as a sort of monetized testnet. So it's a place where people build really fast, they break things, and they it's an environment in which builders can test before things kind of move over to the more enterprise grade um, network of Polkadot. Um, so some of these innovations as it pertains to this layer zero, as it pertains to Polkadot and Kusama, are something called parachains, something called parachain auctions, and something called crowdloans. So parachain is essentially that layer one that's built on top of Polkadot. So it's a use case specific blockchain, which is what Ferrum is looking to build. Is a parachain. We're looking to secure one of these parachain slots, and the way that you secure a parachain slot is through something called a parachain auction, which is essentially there's because there's a limited amount of parachain slots, there needs to be a way to ensure that only the best most promising projects are granted a slot within this ecosystem, right? Granted the ability to build one of these layer ones, and so that's done through an auction where people contribute dot in Polkadot, and KSM and Kusama both have their own respective parachain auctions, depending on where you want to build. And those DOT and KSM tokens are loaned, right? So they're not actually used to buy a slot. They're
Interesting.
loaned, and then whichever network or whichever aspiring network was able to lock up the most DOT or KSM, they're the ones who qualify for this parachain slot, right? So it's a competition between folks competing to get this parachain slot, and the winners of the auction, the ones who are able to lock up the most DOT or KSM, are the ones who are able to secure that slot. And then that slot is leased over a period of time. And then when the lease is up, you have to, do another auction. So this kind of helps solve some of the elements of the blockchain trilemma, which are security, scalability, and decentralization. From the scalability standpoint, this really helps ensure that there's not a congested network effect where there's too many people, too many projects building in this layer zero framework or environment.
So this is kind of their way of making sure there's the right amount of projects on
yeah. Yeah, and that the ones that are building there are actually adding value, right? So the crowd loan is the way to kind of make sure that, well, the auction, I should say, is the way to make sure that only the best projects are getting through. And then, so what's a crowd loan? So a crowd loan, they do, it's a way to bootstrap your network, essentially. So your community can loan their DOT or their KSM to the network in order for the project to have better chances of winning the auction. And oftentimes, when a crowd loan happens, what the incentive is for the user, the community member, to lock up their DOT or KSM is that they'll receive tokens from the project who they're supporting in exchange. So they're loaning their DOT, which they eventually get back at the end of the lease. By the way, the project gets their DOT back. So it's not like they're paying the project for tokens; they're loaning the DOT to locking it up, essentially removing it from circulation, and then they get their DOT back at the end of the lease. But they get tokens from the project who they're supporting, and those tokens aren't loaned; those tokens are theirs forever.
So what is the strategy behind Ferrum buying DOT in order to? I mean, I get it. We're buying DOT. There's a strategy to secure a parachain, but can you get into the details of what Ferrum's strategy is?
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand the distinction between Ferrum and other projects who are building within Polkadot or Dotsama ecosystem from the onset of their existence, right? Ferrum's already a project. We've been a project for a few years, meaning many of our tokens, our FRM tokens, are already in circulation. A smaller percentage of the Ferrum X tokens are in circulation. So we're looking to secure the Ferrum X network on Kusama and the Ferrum network on Polkadot. So this is similar to the relationship that Moonriver and Moonbeam have. Moonriver on Kusama, Moonbeam on Polkadot, Shiden on Kusama, its sister network, a Star on Polkadot. Same thing with Karura on Kusama and its sister network Akala on Polkadot. So we're having that same kind of approach where we're going to have two networks essentially, and we're going to be shooting for two different parachain slots, one on Kusama and for the Ferrum X network, and one on Polkadot for the Ferrum network. And so, given the tokenomic structure that we have currently with Ferrum and Ferrum X, there's a different set of challenges and a different set of opportunities for each one. Ferrum X, there's only about 13% of the supply circulating. With Ferrum, there's over 50% of the supply circulating, which means that if we wanted to do a crowd loan, it would be really difficult to do that for Ferrum because so much of the token is already circulating. It doesn't leave as much as many tokens to our treasury to utilize for things like developer support programs, ecosystem growth strategies, grant initiatives, ambassador programs. All of those things are there's less tokens available for us to use for that because we're a legacy project, because because over half of the supply is circulating. However, with Ferrum X, we took a much different approach. Ferrum X was mainly a rewards token and a governance token prior to this kind of pivot towards the Ferrum X network. So Ferrum X only has 13% of the supply, meaning we can actually do a pretty substantial crowd loan and be able to still have a lot of tokens left over for all those initiatives that I had mentioned to help grow the ecosystem and attract builders to the network. So that's why we're planning on doing a crowd loan with Ferrum X network. We'll still probably do a crowd loan for the Ferrum network, but we need to have more of a supplemental approach because we can't give as much of the supply up to the for the crowd loan for Ferrum network as we could for Ferrum X network. Typically, projects reserve about 10 to 20%, which will be of the total token supply for a crowd loan, which we'll be able to do for Ferrum X network. But for Ferrum network, we don't have it's as much of a buffer there. So we had to get creative. But what's the difference? And like, what do I mean by like playing to our strengths, or like what are the challenges and what are some of the advantages that a project like Ferrum has? Well, many of the projects that are launching within the Dotsama ecosystem now as Genesis projects, they're pre-revenue, right? They don't have any like streams of revenue that they've been able to generate, no products that are generating revenue for them. There's no treasury of stable coins that they have that they can deploy.
And Genesis projects, just for those of you who don't know, are basically brand new projects. They're just getting started. They've been around for maybe a few months, maybe a little bit longer than that, or they've been in development. Now they're actually starting to make some moves.
Yeah, exactly. And like I don't know if that's like the actual term that is a widespread term, but it's what I use to kind of describe like new projects within Polkadot, and one's kind of migrating over. And what we're doing is somewhat unprecedented, right? Like not many projects have made the switch over to the Dotsama ecosystem, which I think is an excellent testament to the work that they're doing and their ability to attract developers through the substrate framework and just its the various palettes and just the customizability and the top-notch governance that this ecosystem deploys is some of the key factors in attracting folks like Ferrum to want to start building over there and secure these parachain slots. So yeah, it's a little bit different approach that than most projects have the luxury or to take. And we have our own luxuries, meaning like we're going to be able to use a lot of this revenue that we generate to start stacking and accumulating DOT, which is where the We Bought DOT initiative comes in, right? Because we're going to need to take a supplemental approach to ensure that we can secure one of these parachains. We've started the process of accumulating DOT so that by the time the auction actually happens, we can actually contribute most of the DOT ourselves, which would mean less inflation for the FRM token. One of the best things about the crowd loan is that it helps you establish a community. Well, Ferrum's already got a really strong community, and obviously we want that community to grow. But like that's one of the things, like one of the biggest value propositions of a crowd loan is that it helps you establish your community. So well, we've got a community. We've also got assets that we can deploy to secure more DOT and ensure that we can secure one of these parachains. So over the next few months here, we'll be securing well into 6 figures of DOT to ensure that we're able to supplement whatever sort of crowd loan we are able to, whatever sort of the amount of tokens that we are able to allocate to a crowd loan, which will probably be a smaller percentage of the total supply than we will be allocating for the Ferrum X network. So that's the strategy behind.
I'm learning this for the first time. I didn't realize we were going to be buying that much DOT. That's really exciting. It just shows how committed Ferrum is to developing its mainnet, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Ferrum X network is basically like our test net to the mainnet. Just like you've been saying, like the Kusama network is like kind of like the test net for the Polkadot ecosystem. Is that correct?
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of really exciting things that'll kind of differentiate Ferrum X network from Ferrum network, and some ways that we're going to be able to incentivize builders on the network, so that we can, one of Gavin Wood, the founder of Polkadot, one of his, I think probably one of his biggest frustrations was that there wasn't enough like building happening on Kusama. He wanted there to be more, like kind of more risks being taken, and and so that's ultimately the way that you're able to find out like what is able to be deployed on the more enterprise grade solution like Polkadot, right? Figure out what works and what doesn't. Build fast, break things, take risks on the Kusama network, and whatever works, move that over to Polkadot. So we want to help kind of realize that vision that he had for Kusama, and we've got some pretty creative ways that we'll be discussing in the coming weeks and months about how we're going to encourage some more building to take place on the Ferrum X network, and hopefully from that some really good ideas are spun up, and some really solid ones that we'll be able to replicate in the Polkadot ecosystem as we kind of push them to that more production ready environment.
Very cool. If you're watching this and you're wondering why we bought Polkadot, I think why we bought Dot, excuse me. Um, I think this Nick does a great job of explaining this. If some of this is a little too dense for some viewers because you're new to crypto, we're going to be breaking down a lot of these terms in Ferrum Academy. So check out our YouTube. Uh, Terms like parachains, crowdloans, all that kind of stuff will be covered in our Ferrum Academy channel on our YouTube channel. So please check that out. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do for the latest on Ferrum, on our partnerships, the latest in crypto and blockchain. Nick, thanks so much for explaining this really exciting initiative. And I look forward to talking more about this as we continue to buy Dot and continue to build out our mainnet and testnet, known as Ferrum X network and our mainnet. So, is that correct? Sometimes I feel like I'm
Yeah, Ferrum X network and Ferrum network.
yeah, and Ferrum network, right? Well,
Yeah,
thanks, Nick, and thanks for taking the time.
absolutely, Joe. Thanks for having me, man.